That the congressman is on the phone, so let's go and talk to Congressman Hill. Congressman Hill, it looks like maybe, I think we got to go back to the 1970s, that the Iranian people disposed of themselves of the Shah. Now it looks like maybe they're going to get rid of the Khomeini. Things are getting crazy in Iran now.
Well, Happy New Year, Dave. Good to be with you. I think that's a possibility. You know, that possibility also occurred during the Obama administration, and he basically turned his back on rhetorically or in any other way helping the Iranian people. But this time, each year that I've been in Congress, I've spoken to the expatriate Iranian annual meeting where Iranians who live in France or live in the United States get together and think about what their country would be like if it was freed from a theocracy and had elections and had, a representative government. I won't describe it as a true democracy, but some form of a representative government instead of a theocracy.
Right.
And this year was the most optimistic I've seen the meeting. The meeting took place after the Trump bombing with the Israelis of the nuclear facilities in Iran. So I think there is the potential that this time it's different, that international support, including support in neighboring nations, could help the Iranian people form a new government. But after 50 years, Dave, it seems to me to be a long shot, but, I've got my fingers crossed that it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, by over 50 years, people have gotten used to being under the thumb of the government. I mean, that's just, that's just being honest.
Yeah, this is a smart, beautifully educated people that have been impoverished. Reuters says that the Ayatollah has a net worth of $1 billion. This is the second Ayatollah, the one you and I saw waving as the embassy was taken over. He died maybe 20 years ago. This is the second Ayatollah. And Reuters says he has $1 billion net worth. So in 2024, I passed a bill signed into law by then President Biden as a part of our national security package that ordered the Treasury Department to publicize in Farsi, in Arabic, in English, in other languages, the net worth of all the leadership in Iran. Just to show people, you're giving me $7 a month, but you have $1 billion net worth, just to show the kleptocracy on top of the theocracy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, thanks for nothing. That's exactly what it sounds like to me. So we'll keep our eye on it. But I guess the Grand Bazaar was shut down yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, but, I want to just caution, temper the enthusiasm to some degree, because this has happened before and it's been brutally and repressively shut down, with public killings of young people in the streets. So let's see how the regime responds this time post Israel and the U.S.'s attack on the nuclear facilities.
Yeah, I kind of like what President Trump told them. He said, hands off the protesters.
Right. And so that's not anything President Obama said.
No, absolutely not. You're right. He turned his back on the people there.
He did. And it was, you can argue, and I think Americans should debate. Okay, so, what is the right response?
Right.
we could bring diplomatic pressure with Gulf states, with European leaders, through the United Nations, through public dissemination of it, by broadcasting more messaging into Iran. We could talk about it every day, and that is as much authority as any, military action we would take. It's just don't ignore it, which is what I would argue Obama did.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they have to do. Well, let's turn our attention to some place that we're not ignoring what's going on, and that's over in Venezuela. And, I've got to give the president all the kudos in the world for the military, and the military, of course, for going in and taking care of the situation with Maduro. I like that the American people can see that when the American military is given an objective, told to take care of it. They can do it, and they do it well. It's not like what happened back in Iraq when or Iran when we went in to get our prisoners there, and every politician in Carter's administration had put their 2 cents in, and we all know how that ended up. So when the military is left to do what they do it well.
Exactly. Well, the Delta Force Joint Chiefs Chairman Kane, everyone executed flawlessly, and this is something that the Americans particularly have extraordinary capabilities. When you think about during the Obama administration, the Osama bin Laden raid and very specific targeting. But I want listeners to understand this was the DEA and the FBI executing an arrest warrant for Maduro after months of diplomatic discussions of him stepping down and seeking asylum somewhere else. And the military's role was to simply help execute that warrant using their very specific talent. There's just, I want to be clear about that. And this is something we've done under both Democratic and Republican administrations selectively, rarely, along the years. And Maduro had been indicted in 2020, had a $50 million bounty on his head. And so first and foremost, this is part of the president's reassertion of leadership in America, both under the Monroe Doctrine, but also on stopping these drug cartels, which he's now named transnational terror organizations, to give us more tools to defend our borders and defend our citizens from this madness. Now, this action is not without risk because unlike the Panamanian action that took place back during my days when I worked for President Bush 41, Manuel Noriega's extraction, we don't have someone as a partner in the country.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest risk to this operation. I think Rubio's talked about it. The president's talked about it. And I think it's the thing that Congress is the most focused on.
I read a lot of information last night about why the president would let someone who worked closely with Maduro take over and not Machado. They said that Machado just didn't have the support with the people that would be needed to be able to, get the government changed around and get things taken care of there in Venezuela, that it was going to take some time.
Well, it's definitely going to take time, and I don't have intimate details on that beyond what I've read in the Wall Street Journal, for example. But, he reported that she didn't have support, which is this news stories intimate why Edmundo Rodriguez ran on behalf of her political party. And she was in hiding, and then she, had this dramatic escape from Venezuela to go accept the Nobel Peace Prize on the part of her and the party. And the party got 2/3 of the vote, 2/3 of the vote. So I'm actually not afraid of the Venezuelan people voting for change. They did. And Maduro annulled the election and told him to go pack sand and sent his thugs out in the street, his Cuban mercenaries and his military and interior minister out to beat the crap out of people who disagreed with that.
Yeah, we're seeing what's going on right now. I mean, this motorcycle gang that's evidently patrolling the streets and beating people up and things.
Yeah, this is the interior minister and the defense minister. These are thugs. These are Cuban-trained, Russian-trained thugs, that are running these collectivos that are running around threatening people in the streets. But this is the point. I think Trump's view was, look, this woman's been sworn in as vice president. She's told our officials that she will cooperate with the U.S. I think that's possible. I don't think it's remotely guaranteed or even likely, but that's what she said. But my point is that what I would prefer us to do while we have her as vice president is also publicly open up this dialogue with the unitary party that Raimundo and others were running in the election and have an announcement. When are we going to have an election and let the Venezuelan people safely go vote? What will happen for that to take place remains to be seen, but I can't imagine it can take place with the Interior Minister and the Defense Minister still in place. That's where I think the caution lights should be on about this. Both those guys, by the way, are indicted co-conspirators with Maduro.
Well, they might disappear.
They might. They might take a trip.
Yeah.
They might take a trip.
I'm with you. I think maybe that probably be a good idea, to be honest with you. Well, let's get our break in, and then we'll come back and talk further. I want to talk
about
to you
another socialist government.
Yeah. Well, let's just come back and let's talk about the Monroe Doctrine. A lot of people don't even know what that was all about. Let's come back and talk about that and getting rid of the Chinese and the Russians in the Central America, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing to get rid of them. They shouldn't be in our hemisphere. But we'll talk about that with the congressman in just a moment. Congressman Hill is on with us until 7:30. Hey, don't start starting your new year off without doing something that's going to get rid of the pain that probably is hurting your back or hurting your knees or your shoulder. You can start the year moving and not hurting. And QC Kinetics delivers regenerative treatments that actually help your body repair the areas that are causing you pain. Those achy heels and knees and hips, shoulders, back, wherever it hurts, they can help you with that. Instead of facing an invasive operation that sidelines you for months, these treatments happen right in the office. They go about your day after you've had it injected into your joints. Simple procedures that can deliver big life-changing results. Skip the 3 to 6 months of recovery. Skip the pain. Skip the invasive surgery. Imagine this instead. You're moving better. You're stronger. You're planning the year you actually want, all because you took care of the pain the smart way. Game-changing regenerative treatments from QC Kinetics. January is supposed to be your clean slate. Make it that. Stop managing the pain and start solving it with QC Kinetics. Call them for a free consultation, 501-817-9516, 501-817-9516. One more time now, 501-817-9516. Let's go ahead and get back to Congressman French Hill and talk further about what's going on around the Central America area. For the last, 15 years, the Chinese have been getting more and more active in this area of the hemisphere, in the western area. Some of us that are listening or doing a show right now remember the Cuban Missile Crisis when the Soviet Union tried to come into our hemisphere and put missiles in Cuba. That we were able to turn the Russians away from doing that. Now it looks like we're in the same position again, Congressman, because the next war probably won't be fought over, ideologies of states. It'll be fought all over, minerals and oil and things of that nature.
Well, there's no doubt that strategic minerals, natural resources, trading partners are critical. And what you say is true. Since 2000, I'd say in 2000, if you looked at the map at the Western Hemisphere, you would see the United States as the leading trading partner of all the countries in the Western Hemisphere, from Canada down to Argentina and Chile. If you looked at that map today, you would find that China is the leading trading partners for a great number of those countries, and that they have infiltrated in every way they know how using their pernicious, terrible garbage and road program, where they built dams in Ecuador, for example, stole all their oil as collateral, and then the dams collapsed, and Ecuador sued China. And the only reason we know all this is that lawsuit took place in the U.S., and so we know the details of what garbage the Chinese dished out to the Ecuadorians. But here's what's important to think about. Since the 1820s, when President Monroe created the Monroe Doctrine, it was, look, the Western Hemisphere is an American partnership zone. We don't want European powers at that time to come in and try to dominate any of the countries in the Western Hemisphere. And you think about that historically of France and Britain and Spain and Portugal, all had been very active in the Western Hemisphere. But you flash forward, as you did, to the late 20th century, you have Reagan, Kennedy concerned about Russia and Cuba threatening the United States directly with nuclear weapons. The Russian communists partnered with Noriega, the Nicaraguans in the 1980s through the Sandinista movement. You've had China do the same kind of thing. China's been intimidating countries that recognize Taiwan. I stopped in Asuncion, Paraguay last year, leading a trip to South America to counter China was the purpose of the mission, and we stopped specifically in Asuncion to thank the Taiwanese ambassador there for his strong economic partnership in Paraguay, and and we thank the Paraguayans for recognizing Taiwan. And in the Honduran elections of just last month, and Congressman Crawford and I were in Honduras during that election cycle, both the candidates that were center-right candidates that did win, they're still counting votes, of course, it's like California, but still counting votes. But both those candidates agreed to abandon the PRC and recognize Taiwan. So we're making progress. And this effort in Venezuela is to counter the Russians, Cubans, and Chinese and Iranians that have been active, in propping up the Chavez and the Maduro regime over these years.
Well, and it's something that needed to be done. When they went into Caracas the other day, got Maduro, one of the other things they started doing was rounding up the members of Hamas that were down there in Caracas, and there were a lot of them down there in Caracas.
You have, this may come as a surprise to some people, but you have tremendous connections in transnational drugs from those Middle Eastern terror organizations that are transiting drugs from South America, and so that, none of that surprises me.
It just amazes me that so much of that is going on, and it's run just like a everyday business in that part of the world.
And this is why neighboring countries like even Colombia, that's more cautious because they're very concerned about this because of their current government. They have elections next year. But the Peruvians and the Colombians bear the brunt of Venezuela's chaos because they have so many millions of Venezuelan refugees in their countries. And that just opens the border more for drug transit. So this is going to, if done correctly, and if this is able to be completed in the right way, this will increase stability and increase American influence in the region and counter China.
Oh, by the way, all those people that are saying, well, we did this in Venezuela for the oil, and now today there's going to be a lot of people saying that, 10 to 20 million barrels that the United States is going to take. That's like 2 days of oil for the United States.
Yeah. Well, look, we want to get the revenue flowing back to the Venezuela government so that it can function and the Venezuelan people can be successful. I mean, the entire economy in Venezuela was based on tourism, mining, and oil production. Obviously, the tourism's gone much weaker given the last 25 years of authoritarian murder in the streets. And you got 8 million Venezuelans that have escaped Venezuela. So if you can get the oil business functioning, and if that revenue can flow back into the Venezuelan state, and you can have those Venezuelans feel like there's security at home and a change in government, I think it can return to be the prosperous country it was before Hugo Chavez destroyed it.
Well, we'll have more to talk about this come up next week. You have a great week, and then we'll catch you on the rebound. Thank you very much. Congressman French Hill here on the Dave Elswick Show. Congressman Westerman is up after the news, and that's coming up right now. All right, back with you on the Dave Elswick Show, and let's join up with Congressman Bruce Westerman. And Congressman, Happy New Year. Hope that your holiday was a good one, and a lot's gone on here in the beginning of this new year in 2026.
It has, and Happy New Year to you as well, Dave. I hope you got to spend time with family and enjoy the holidays like I did, but it's back to work in a brisk sort of way.
Yeah, that's no doubt. By the way, this just breaking, U.S. forces are attempting to board the Russian flag oil tanker in the North Atlantic Sea. Sources are saying now, they told Fox News this. The news, first reported by Reuters, comes after the Wall Street Journal reported on Tuesday that Russia has sent a submarine and other naval assets to escort the tanker. So that's an ongoing story, and as it changes, I'll bring the information to you. But that tanker has been doing everything they can to avoid being boarded several weeks ago. They've been making all kinds of changes.
Is this the one that I think maybe the Finns or maybe Denmark, they had a cable cut? I was reading something about it the other day as well. But that's a huge problem with communication and energy cables across the North Sea up there, that these Russian and Chinese vessels go through and drag anchors and sever those. But obviously that's breaking news. I haven't seen what's happening there.
Yeah, some more news coming in. The vessel previously operating under the name Bella 1 has spent more than 2 weeks attempting to slip past U.S. enforcement efforts targeting sanctioned oil shipments near Venezuela. So we'll keep our eyes on this. This is a big deal. A lot of this is going to play out because of what happened with them removing Maduro. I mean, Cuba is sitting in the cold right now. They get all their oil basically from Venezuela, and Nicaragua is not going to be happy for very much longer because they were closely tied to Maduro in Venezuela as well.
Are you saying the apple cart's been upset, Dave?
Yeah, I'd say so. The president's stirring it up again, but it's, this is something that should have been done a long time ago. I just got done talking to Congressman Hill. A lot of people forget their history. The Monroe Doctrine was put in to keep France and England and Spain and others from coming in and setting up, their own countries backed by the main country here in our hemisphere. And we told them, get the heck out of Dodge. And now we've got the problems that we do with Chinese and the Russians, and the Chinese trying to take over all the minerals and things of that nature. And now we're telling them, get out of our hemisphere again.
Exactly. And people forget that it was the Biden administration that issued an indictment for Maduro's arrest. I was talking to actually some Democrats earlier this morning, and they were saying, people need to realize Maduro is not a good guy. It's mainly talking about their colleagues that, his friends are Russia and China and North Korea. And, it's not like just the Trump administration woke up and thought, Maduro is a bad guy. We need to do something about him. Everybody realized he's a bad guy. The Trump administration is really the first one to try to do something about it.
Well, the president was smart. I mean, he told Maduro, get the heck out. Look, I'll let you go wherever you want to go. Just go. And, he thumbed his nose at the president and was dancing on television and all that. And from what I've read, that's what set the president off and put him on this course. And our U.S. military did a spectacular job of going in and getting him. And it tells other despots that their time may be coming to a close as well.
Yeah, the U.S. military, that was as close to flawless as anything I've ever seen from a military operation. I'm going to get a further briefing on it hopefully this week, but from all the reports, it sounds like it couldn't have gone off any better from a strategic and execution standpoint with what our military did. And despots across the world may be not going to sleep as easy tonight as they were a few weeks ago.
Well, you got Nicaragua down there. You got Cuba. Cuba's really tightly wound up with Venezuela, and now their oil shipments are going to be cut off, and that's why, of course, President Trump said, Cuba is a failed nation. It's going to go on the dust heap of history, and I believe that is an absolute fact as well. Let me ask, as far as the midterms go, the big, beautiful bill finally has started now, and good things are happening. Gas prices are plummeting and moving down quickly. I went to Oklahoma last week, pick up my grandson, and a gallon of gas there was $2.03. I mean, it was only a matter of weeks ago that in Cabot I was paying $2.62 for a gallon of gas. So good things are happening on that side, and as oil and gas prices come down, a lot of pressure is taken off of the producers of our goods and the services that we have here in the United States.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the other thing that's getting ready to happen, or that has happened, is the full force of the tax cuts are kicking in. So people are going to see more take-home pay on their paychecks. We had a strategic planning meeting yesterday. Trump spoke at it, and French and I were on a panel that were presenting strategy for this coming year and everything. And a lot of what we talked about was the work that was done on the big, beautiful bill, and then the things that we have in progress that can really benefit the country. And, the part that the Natural Resources Committee worked on the reconciliation bill was energy dominance. So we saw those policies go into effect in July. And, I realize that correlation doesn't always mean causation, but it feels pretty good to know that we put policy in there to lower energy prices, and gas prices are at a 4-year low right now. And as more of this bill goes into effect, the economy and the American consumers are going to see the benefits from it.
Yeah, that's exciting. It really is, because when the midterms come up, it's going to be the big argument would be, what have you done for me lately? That's the way it always works. And you all are going to have a pretty good story to tell the American people.
Yeah, we've got a great story, and we didn't do a good enough job telling the story of what was in the bill. I think there was so much effort in putting it together and getting it passed and then moving on to other things that we forgot to. We didn't forget. We just didn't do a good job. I think you get involved in all of the work up here, and it's constantly reported on. And in your mind, you think, well, everybody's following this. Everybody knows what's going on, and they don't. And we've got to do a better job of explaining to people about the benefits in the tax bill and the things that we put in place that are actually already helping the economy. You know, we saw the stock market reach an all-time high yesterday, I believe, and I think we're going to see more of that. But we've still got a tremendous amount of work ahead of us. We've got to get the government funding done again this month, and we were able to pass a huge permitting bill right before the Christmas break, and I've got several meetings on that today, and I've been working with the Senate. This is very, very important that we get permitting reform done. A lot of the stuff that the administration is doing administratively to get projects going, those decisions may only last as long as a president's in office, and a new president can come in and just roll everything back. And that's why we need to get legislative fixes so that we can give investors confidence to build factories, to develop projects, and to develop the resources that we have. We're way behind the eight ball in a lot of areas. Mining is one of those, but we've got this plan in place where we can secure our critical minerals as well as, you know, copper and steel and aluminum and all the other things that we need here in America and from our allies.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things happening, but as you said, we got to keep our eye on the ball and keep moving everything ahead. I mean, as of now, the tax cuts that the president put into the big, beautiful bill, no more, tax on Social Security, tips, overtime, things of that nature. That's all going to play out over the next few months. And I agree with you. It's up to the Republican Party to get out and get somebody talking or several people talking about this to the American public, because I think MAGA people think that maybe the president has taken his eye off the ball of what's going on here in our own country, making America great again, and turned it to international politics. But they're both intertwined, and that's what really people have to understand.
Right. I was, again, before Christmas, I was in the White House in the Oval Office with the president. He was signing 5 bills that came through my committee, and I got opportunity to visit with him. I can promise you he's focused on domestic issues. These bills were focused on domestic energy issues, and he's very much still America first and focused on taking care of things here at home. But you can't turn a blind eye to these foreign affairs issues either. I mean, it's hard to describe the amount of or how consuming the job of president is. It's a 24/7 all the time job. There's never a break from it.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand why people want to do it.
Well,
I'll be honest.
Obviously loves it.
Yeah, you gotta love it, because it's as you said, it's 24/7, 365. That's the way it works.
Right. I mean, he has to sleep sometime, but you go to sleep and you might be woken up in the middle of the night. But it's I think it's why regardless of what party you're in, we need to support the office of the president, and like the Bible says, pray for our leaders, because that's a very important job and a lot of pressure on them, and it affects all of us. It's the most powerful elected position in the world.
I don't know if you're in touch on any kind of a basis with the Republican Party national, but are they going to perhaps produce some commercials to be played over the summer to tell the American people about how much better it is now than it was under Biden?
Yeah, I think they will, and I think Trump's got a huge war chest that he can spend on campaigns in the midterm. So I would expect to see a lot of that kind of messaging as well, because one thing I realized from the tax cut that we did in 2017. You know, a lot of people don't check their pay stub anymore. They get direct deposit.
Right.
And I had several people not realize that they were taking more money home. They went back and looked and like, yeah, actually my paycheck's more than it was. So you can't depend on just things happening and people realizing it, because people have busy lives and they're working, they're raising families and doing all of those things. And not everybody's as plugged into what happens here in Washington, D.C. or what happens in Little Rock as you are and as I am. I think that's why it's important having a show like you've got, Dave, so you can get the word out.
I try. In fact, other thing that I do is I play commercials so that we can keep doing this show. So let's take a break, and then we'll come back and finish up our conversation and talk about some other different things that are going on and things that perhaps we're not hearing about, but you'd like to tell us about here on the Dave Elswick Show. Our guest, Congressman Bruce Westerman, District 4, here on the Dave Elswick Show. We have about 8 minutes remaining here in this hour. First hour has gone really fast. We're talking to Congressman Bruce Westerman. Congressman, anything going on that you think the listeners should know about that you guys are up to that hasn't been really reported in the press, or if it has, they haven't made a big deal about it? Did we lose him? No?
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hello. Oh, sorry about that.
That's
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering what's going on that maybe we're not seeing it in the media.
Well, I think the big things you're going to see in the media are the funding of the government. There's still a lot of things churning underneath, like the duck paddling. There's a lot of motion under the surface, and that may not be what you're seeing on the top of the water. But we've got one of the things that we're working on is something called the Great American Outdoor Act of 250 to celebrate our 250th year anniversary. This was a bill that was passed in 2018 or 19. Trump signed it into law. It had a 5-year sunset on it, and this is to really rebuild our national parks, and it has funding in there for some Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, and BLM recreation areas as well. So, Americans take great pride in our parks. The president definitely loves our parks, and with it being the 250th year anniversary, we hope to reauthorize this bill. And I think this is one of the things that Americans can be proud of, the parks and the public lands that we have. So I look forward to leading the charge on that. We had hoped to actually have that bill passed and over to the Senate by the end of the year, but the big shutdown we had, thank you, Senator Schumer, caused us not to be able to have the hearings and the markups that we needed. But we're pushing ahead on that. This could be, big for Arkansas, for the parks and the public lands that we've got there. It's already been big for the state, for some of the maintenance work and construction that's been done with our national park facilities and on some of our Forest Service property. So that's one of the big issues that I'll be pushing for. We were going to have a field hearing in Hot Springs back in October, but again, that got canceled because of the shutdown. We're trying to reschedule that. We may end up having just to have the hearing here in D.C. instead of doing a field hearing, but you'll be hearing more about Great American Outdoors Act 250.
Well, what's going on as far as I know that, you got some legislation passed in the House side. It's to the Senate now. How is it being approached by the Senate? Does it look like it's going to get through and become law?
Yeah, well, that's the SPEED Act. That's the permitting reform. And the Senate will be taking action on it. Senator Shelley Capito is the chair of the one of the committees that has jurisdiction over it in the Senate. The other one is Mike Lee. So I've been working closely with them and with their staff all along as we've moved the bill through the House. There's other components that could get put into that bill. So the hope is that the Senate will take it up, that they'll put their priorities in the bill and pass it and send it back over to the House. But this is the one that I'm saying is so critical to our future because it takes so long to build things in our country. And with the demands on energy, the demands on mining, on housing, this affects everything. Roads and bridges, navigable waterways and ports and airports, anything that has a federal government nexus to it gets slowed down through the NEPA process. And it's critical that the Senate take action on it and we get it passed. And there's bipartisan support for this. So we've got to take really good care of the bipartisan support because it's going to require 60 votes in the Senate. But I think it's something we can get across the finish line, and it'll be a big victory for America if we can do that. I tell people all the time that other than taxes, permitting affects every American more than any other policy that we pass in D.C. because it affects so much of everything we depend on. Well, and it affects our economy and job growth.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you're trying to change is like, it doesn't seem right to me that, let's say you want to build something in an area that they're already building something in and they've done the background on environmental impact and everything. Why should you have to do that again?
It's nuts. It has zero common sense to it. One thing I was last week, there's a national park in the Virgin Islands that got destroyed by a hurricane a few years ago.
Yes.
And under the Biden administration, they wanted to just let it kind of grow up and go back to the wild, but it had a big resort on it that got destroyed. And I was supposed to go down there and visit the park and working with the Department of Interior on changing the plan so that they can actually build a resort back because it was the biggest economic driver on the island. Well, now the problem is they've got to go back and permit it.
Oh my God.
To build back what they already had there. Yeah. So they're saying this could take 2 or 3 more years of permitting. It's just another example of why we need to get this messed up permitting system fixed.
All right. I'll let you go. We're out of time. I appreciate you joining us and for this first news show of 2026, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday.
Looking forward to it. Have a great day, Dave.
Same to you. Okay, Congressman Bruce Westerman, let's take a break. News is next.